So I honestly thought I was being so clever, Sneaky, even. What I didn't realize was that my husband, David, already knew pretty much everything. Turns out one of his colleagues, who was apparently just disgusted by what was going on, had spilled the beans. So while I was feeling all smug and in control, I was actually completely exposed. Anyway, once I found out that he knew through this colleague, mind you, not from him directly, I had to switch gears. I started making my real plans, getting everything ready. Thankfully, finding out that way gave me a little time to process, to manage the initial shock and anger and really prepare myself for what was about to unfold. And it was all going to kick off tonight right after dinner. Tonight then, Christine, my friend Emily asked, her voice low and serious over the phone. Yeah, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Tonight's the night. I'm finally going to do it. I'll wait until after we eat, maybe hand him a beer, and then I'll just have to call you right after and fill you in on every single detail. Just remember to stay strong, she coached. He's not going to like it, not one bit, but you absolutely have to remain firm. Don't back down. I'll keep that in mind, I replied, gripping the phone a little tighter. Just like we discussed, he really doesn't have a choice in this. This is how it's going to be. And if he truly, truly loves me, he'll let me do this for my happiness. Exactly, Emily said. That's the key. Just be prepared for him to maybe yell or even storm around. He'll resist, for sure, but eventually he'll come to his senses. He'll accept the new reality. It's crucial that you stay calm, but definitely firm. Let him have his little tantrum, and then he'll realize that you're the one in charge now. That's right, I agreed, feeling a tiny bit stronger. Besides, as far as he knows, this is all just temporary anyway. Once he accepts it, he'll probably start to enjoy it. And then, then it will just keep going, won't it? There was a slight pause on the other end. Are you absolutely sure about all this? David can be really stubborn, Look, Emily, I insisted. David loves me more than anything in the world. Yes, okay. He'll get angry at first, but when he calms down, he'll realize how much he loves me. So much that he'll do anything to make me happy, even this. Okay, she said, sounding a little hesitant. I guess you're the expert. Trust me, I said with a sigh, a little self-deprecatingly. It took me messing up 2 marriages to figure this all out, but I finally perfected the method on my 3rd one. You've met my current husband, right? He is now completely under my control. He even stands right there next to the bed when I'm with someone else. Sometimes I even have him clean up afterward. She lowered her voice conspiratorially. Honestly, maybe a month from now, another David will get in line as well. And then you can be absolutely assured of the security of your marriage to David, as well as the pleasure of several other men. I finished up work that day and drove home, my stomach in knots, to cook David's favorite dinner. When David walked in, he greeted me with his usual "I love you" and a sweet kiss on the cheek. Despite everything, despite knowing what was coming, I was still so incredibly nervous. This was going to be such a huge step, a massive change in our marriage, but I kept telling myself it was all worth it. Emily had been talking about her feminine marriage ministry for ages now, and I had personally seen it work for her and her husband. He seemed genuinely happy with how their marriage had turned out. I was sure David would love it too, deep down. Dinner was actually really pleasant. We talked easily, exchanging stories from the day, laughing about silly things. It was a completely laid-back, normal dinner for us, which somehow made the upcoming conversation even more nerve-wracking. After we finished eating, I insisted that he grab a beer and just relax on the couch while I cleaned up. He resisted a little, being the sweet guy he is, wanting to help, but I just shooed him away, assuring him it wasn't much and I could totally handle it. I put the leftovers away, loaded the dishwasher, and then it was time. I poured myself a glass of wine, took a few shaky sips, mentally prepared myself as best I could, and headed into the living room. "David, honey, we need to talk," I began. Sitting down across from him, he looked up from his beer, a relaxed smile on his face. "Sure, honey, what's up?" Okay, this was it. Deep breath. "Okay, David, I realize this might be difficult for you to accept right now, and I know that. But it's something I really feel like I need to do. Please try to keep in mind that this is only temporary, okay?" He frowned a little, looking concerned now. "Okay, so what is it you need?" "If it's that crucial to your happiness, of course I'll do what I can." Wow, so far, he was handling it incredibly well. Not even bothered, really. This was good. Well, we've talked about having kids, right? And I'm almost ready for that. But there are just a couple of other things I feel like I need to do first. It really shouldn't take more than a couple of months at the absolute most. And then, after that, we can totally start working on having kids. That's great, baby, really. So what are these things you need to do? He was smiling again, probably relieved it wasn't something awful. Here it comes. This is the tricky part. I took another deep breath, bracing myself for his reaction. "Well, David, I need to explore a bit before settling down completely. Just for a little while. Like I said, it will be temporary, and then I can be the best wife and mother to our children you could possibly dream of." He just looked at me for a moment, his brow furrowed slightly. "All right, my love, that sounds reasonable so far. But how exactly are you planning to go about this exploring?" Wow. He's handling it so well. I honestly expected him to completely freak out, maybe even walk out right then and there. "Well," I swallowed, pushing forward. "I'll be seeing other men for a little while. We'll still make love regularly, of course, but I'll also be having intimacy with other guys. Just to, clear my head." I tried to emphasize the clear. My head part, make it sound like some weird personal development thing. "Remember, it's only intimacy with them. You are the only one who has my love. My heart is yours, always. I'll return to you in a couple of months, be your faithful wife again, and then we can totally start working on having the kids we've planned." Was quiet for a long moment, just looking at me. It was unnerving. Finally, he spoke, his voice completely flat. "Well, Christine, you don't exactly seem to be asking for my permission here. So I'm just going to assume you've already made up your mind. For the record, I want to say I am not in favor of this. If you are asking for permission, I am absolutely not giving it. However, you're a grown woman, so I'm not going to stop you if you think this is necessary." Okay, things were going even. Better than I could have possibly imagined. He didn't raise his voice. He spoke calmly, conversationally even. Emily must be completely right. David will absolutely accept the new role I'm preparing him for. "So, Christine," he continued, still, in that unnervingly calm tone, "how exactly will this work? Are you moving out, or do you expect me to? Are you bringing these other guys here? Or are you going to their place or hotel? Tell me." "Oh, well, we're both going to keep living here," I said quickly. "We're married, and like I said, we'll keep making love. The other guys will just be for intimacy with you. It will be making love." I stumbled over the words a little, trying to make it sound less harsh. "I may go to them, or I might bring them here. In those cases, you'll just have to sleep in the spare bedroom. I don't really see the need for a hotel room since we can just stay here, right?" He sighed, a low, weary sound. "Again, Christine, I am not in favor. And no, we shouldn't have intimacy during this time. I'm sorry, but I won't risk catching any STDs. Once you're done exploring, we'll wait until you're tested and cleared. Then maybe, so have fun. Don't worry about me. Well, David, I said, trying to sound understanding, I can't say I'm not disappointed. I love you and I really enjoy our intimacy, but I understand your concern. I'll just have to live with it, I guess. That's great, honey, he said, picking up his newspaper again. So, when do you plan to start your little flings? Well, Mary and I decided to hit a club tomorrow night and maybe meet a couple of guys from work, I explained, feeling a flush of excitement despite the tension. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but I might bring one of them back for the night. Since you're not going to with me while I'm doing it anyway, maybe it would be best if you just moved into the spare room for the next couple of months. Okay, Christine, David said, his voice distant as he looked at the paper. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of moving in by the time you get home tomorrow night. I couldn't believe how incredibly mature he was about the whole thing. My heart actually soared a little. Sure, he had weakly complained and refused the intimacy part, but he was completely accepting of everything else. He wasn't even the least bit angry. Emily was definitely right. In 2 months, David would be completely under my thumb. Besides, I knew this lack of intimacy was only temporary. In a week or two, he'd be begging to be back in my bed. Then I would just I'd figure out how to get him to fully embrace his new role as my submissive little hubby. Hi, Mary, it's Christine. Hey, girl, so how'd it go last night? Emily's voice was buzzing with anticipation. Oh my God, you wouldn't even believe how mature David was about everything. I honestly expected him to just go nuclear, but he didn't even raise his voice. He was just so calm and accepting of it all. It was amazing. Wow, that's incredible. See, I told you he'd comply eventually. Do you think you'll be able to convince him to watch tonight? I hesitated. I doubt it, to be honest. In fact, I don't think I'll even suggest it. He said he'd refuse to be intimate with me while I'm with someone else. But I'm sure that won't last long. After a week or two of just using his own hands, knowing he has a beautiful woman right there, he'll be begging to be back. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun, Emily chuckled. So, is he moved out? Yeah. Since he refused to touch me anyway, I just went ahead and made him move to the spare room. He's packing his stuff now. He promised me he'd be completely moved out of the main bedroom before I came home tonight. I love that you changed the name from master bedroom to owner's bedroom. I'm totally going to have to start doing that myself. Oh, definitely. Anyway, I should probably start getting ready. I'll meet you at the club. Okay, see you there. Bye. Later that night, when I got home, David had actually made pretty good progress boxing up all the stuff from my bedroom. I wasn't exactly sure why he really needed to pack when he could just carry armfuls of stuff down the hall to the spare room, but he explained something about it being better that way. Less walking, and he could go through everything and leave the things he really didn't need in boxes to get rid of later. I guess that made some sense, but honestly, I was too busy getting ready to pay much attention. He did say how seductive I looked in my underwear, garter belt, stockings, and those ridiculous 5-inch loafers I sometimes wear. He didn't say anything though when I put on that little red cocktail dress I got for our 5th anniversary last year. That was actually the only time I ever wore it, but I looked damn good in it. I informed David that I was heading out and expected to be back. Around 1 a.m., I made a point of mentioning that he didn't need to wait up for me, as I might not be alone when I returned. After saying this, I picked up my clutch and prepared to leave. He just looked at me, a strange expression on his face I couldn't quite read, and assured me not to worry. He said he would definitely have moved out by the time I returned. As he made this promise, He closed the last box he was working on as I left the house. A strange sense of unease lingered within me, like a tiny little knot in my stomach. I couldn't quite identify its source, but it was there. Despite this, I chose to just dismiss it, pushing it away and directing all my focus towards the fun and excitement I anticipated for the night at the club. I met up with Emily and we quickly found Mark and Tom. They were account managers from work, and yeah, they definitely had a reputation for being attractive, and according to Emily and some of the other office girls, reputedly well endowed. While David was, perfectly adequate, the thought of experiencing something considerably larger was definitely intriguing. Plus, there was the added expectation that these guys actually knew how to use their assets effectively. In the midst of conversation, as our first round of drinks arrived, Emily asked about David's move to the spare bedroom. I happily confirmed that he had completed packing and had assured me he would be entirely moved out by the time I returned home. Upon sharing this information, Mark gave a little chuckle and questioned if David had really made such a statement. I confidently affirmed it, recalling David's exact words when I mentioned my expected return time. Our little group burst into laughter at the remark, and Tom humorously expressed disappointment about David having already moved out, mentioning he was kind of hoping to maybe involve him in a carnal setting. I just playfully suggested that, perhaps after some persuasion, we could consider such arrangements later on. In the midst of the banter and laughter, I noticed that neither Mark nor Tom had actually gotten around to extending an invitation to dance. Over the course of the next few hours, we mostly just hung out, talking and drinking. I did end up dancing with both of them on multiple occasions, particularly during the slow songs where we embraced closely, feeling their hardness against me. Throughout the night, their hands seemed to find their way to my backside. Later, Mary and I took a break and headed to the ladies' room to discuss the conclusion of the night. We decided the outcome of the ride home by playing 3 rounds of rock, paper, scissors. I won, which meant I would drive Mark home, and Emily would accompany Tom. Upon arriving back at the house, I led Mark through the front door. It was completely dark inside. I just assumed David had retired to bed by then, maybe feeling silky. I reassured myself that everything was fine. Anyway, we didn't need him watching, not yet anyway. I led Mark down the hall to my room. Sure enough, all of David's stuff was gone. Every single trace of him was out of the room. Maybe, I thought fleetingly, I should reward him later. Maybe offer him something nice. There would be something to think about later. Right now, I had other things requiring my immediate attention. It didn't take us long to undress, but Mark wanted me to keep the garter belt and stockings on. I'd lost my thong about 2 hours ago at the club, unsure if it belonged to Tom or Mark by that point. It didn't really matter. I made enough money to buy others. The next 2 hours were sheer bliss. We started with one position, then switched to another to avoid getting tired too quickly. We finished that round with me on top. After a brief rest, I especially enjoyed when he spanked my butt while I rode him. Maybe I'll let David do it on his birthday or our anniversary, I thought, but probably not. I'd save that for my other lovers. We ended up in the shower before going to bed, and then again when we woke up the next morning. After that, Mark had to rush off to his wife and kids, so I put on my robe and went to get some coffee. I felt a bit let down that David hadn't brewed coffee yet, considering it was already past 9 o'clock. Typically, he'd be up for an hour by now, making coffee, maybe breakfast. I planned to address it with him later. I mean, would it really hurt him to make me coffee and breakfast, especially after I had stayed up late? So much for the nice gesture I was going to offer him as a reward for moving into the spare bedroom while I was away. After quickly devouring a breakfast bagel I found, I headed to the shower and got dressed. The warm water did wonders for soothing my sore muscles. Since I had no plans for the day, I opted for my old shorts and a t-shirt. As I was only going to be around David, I wore a functional bra and an old pair of comfortable underwear. Just as I finished tying my hair into a ponytail, the phone rang. "Hey, girlfriend." It was Emily. "Hey, seductive thing. So how was Mark last night?" "He was amazing, Emily. Absolutely amazing." It was exactly as I thought it would be. Good. Good. Speaking of David, what was his reaction this morning? "I don't know," I admitted, feeling a prickle of annoyance. "I'm a little angry, actually, because he still seems to be asleep. I was honestly disappointed that he didn't make me breakfast and coffee this morning. I was thinking of offering him a little part-time job for being moved to the spare room, like helping out more, but now I don't think so. Yes, make sure he knows how disappointed you are, and make sure he knows what you expect from this moment on. Continue to be aggressive with him, but make sure you give him small rewards when he does something good. This will give him incentive to try harder." Yeah, you're right. I'm actually starting to get genuinely angry that he still hasn't gotten up. Wait a minute while I go get his lazy butt out of bed. I walked down the hall towards the spare bedroom, my annoyance building. I pounded on the door, shouting his name. No response. I tried again, louder this time. Still nothing. Finally, I just turned the doorknob and swung the door open. "Oh, crap." I exclaimed into the phone. "What's wrong?" Mary asked, her voice sharp. With sudden worry. David isn't in the spare bedroom," I stammered, looking around the empty room. "His clothes aren't even in the closet." "Wait," I said, dropping the phone slightly as I ran through the house, my heart starting to pound. Crap, his truck is gone. And all his tools, everything. That little stirring of unease I felt last night was starting to take shape, forming into something cold and terrifying. "Oh, no," I gasped, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. "What? What is it, Christine?" Emily demanded. He moved out," I whispered, the words feeling heavy and foreign. Now I understood what he was talking about. He never said he would move his stuff into the spare room. He only said he would move his stuff out of my room. Then he said he would move in before I returned. I thought he meant he would move his stuff out of my room and he would move into the spare room. But he meant he would move out of the whole house. "Crap," I said, my voice rising in panic. "I need to call him. I need to find out where he's gone." No, Christine, absolutely not." Emily's voice was firm, almost harsh. "This is wrong. It sends him a message of weakness. You have to stay strong. Do not contact him. Let him contact you, trust me. Right now, he's just having a little tantrum. In a couple of days, maybe a week, he'll come crawling back to you. This is actually a very, very good thing. Now you have a reason to punish him and make him beg to do something for you just to let him come back. It speeds up the whole process." She paused, then her voice took on a speculative tone. I bet you could even let Mark or Tom and make David raise the baby." Are you sure about that?" I asked, my mind reeling. "I'm sure. Look what my husband Harold does for me." "Well, I have to admit, you've been right so far." "Of course I am." Emily sounded triumphant. "Oh, and listen, Tom wants to meet you in the supply closet at work for about an hour on Monday. Can you do it?" "What? Can we really get away with that?" "Sure. At least half the girls are doing it. It's so bad, I practically have to do it on a schedule. I'll email you the meeting time. Just put it down as an appointment somewhere else. Don't worry about it. The boss never goes in there, and everyone who needs something knows to ask me before going to get it." We continued our conversation for a bit longer before ending the call. I must confess, I felt a bit uneasy about David's move despite everything. Despite my actions, I genuinely loved him and truly envisioned spending my life with him. Mary's portrayal of this feminine lifestyle sounded appealing, giving me the opportunity to explore various men, and eventually, I planned to give up the other relationships. But David remained my devoted and submissive spouse. Perhaps in a few years, I can negotiate with David to let me, say, tie him down in exchange for ceasing involvement with other men. Of course, this would only happen when I was truly ready to give it up, and he didn't need to know that part. Yes. I could definitely use binding as a condition for his return. I need to consider that dot regardless. I needed to recover from the previous night and brace myself for what promised to be a demanding day at work tomorrow. I shrugged it off, prepared a simple dinner, enjoyed another glass of wine, and went to bed. Throughout the week, there was absolutely no word from David. Emily assured me it wasn't entirely unexpected and predicted he would contact me soon. The longer he stayed away, she said, the more conditions I could establish for his return. This week, I'd been meeting Larry and Josh and a couple of other attractive guys in the pantry every day. We even had a double-team session with Mark and Tom's schedule for this afternoon dot on Friday morning. During our break around the coffee machine, Mark, Tom, Emily, and I were chatting, laughing about something silly. Suddenly, a professionally dressed woman, looking very serious, approached. U.S. She inquired if we were Christine Adams, Emily Morgan, Mark Johnson, and Tom Jones. After we nervously introduced ourselves, she handed each of us a thick envelope and quickly took pictures of us with a small digital camera. She mentioned curtly that we had all been served and then headed directly towards our boss's office. I called after her, my voice trembling, asking what it was about, and she responded in a sweet, syrupy southern voice that she was simply paid to distribute them like a joke, not to read them. She entered the boss's office without knocking. Less than a minute later, she cheerfully left the building, wishing us all a good day. Simultaneously, we opened our envelopes, our hands shaking. Inside mine were divorce papers, citing spousal cheating as the reason. I was frozen in shock. Almost immediately, Mark and Tom's phones rang. It was their wives who had also received proof of their infidelity. Their belongings were apparently being tossed out onto the lawn as we spoke, and they were to take turns sleeping well, wherever they could find a spot. Divorce papers were imminent for them too. Just then, our boss's voice boomed from his office, expressing extreme frustration. He suddenly appeared in the doorway, yelling loudly enough for the entire office to hear. He called for Adams, Morgan, Johnson, and Jones to get into his office immediately. A heavy sense of foreboding settled over me like a physical weight. With bowed heads, we walked past him and entered his office, the door slamming shut behind us with a resounding bang. Inside, he conveyed his deep discontent, emphasizing that the situation was beyond just bad. It was a complete disaster. He demanded an explanation while waving the manila envelope the process server had given him, but none of us dared to speak. He proceeded to inform us that the company was now facing a massive lawsuit for not adhering to the moral code outlined in our employee handbook. He questioned whether any of us could possibly fathom the reason behind such legal action. Once again, we found ourselves unable to respond. He took it upon himself to explain the situation, stating that the lawsuit revolved around allegations against Mrs. Adams, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Johnson for inappropriate conduct, while Mrs. Morgan was accused of transforming the storage room into something far less innocent. He challenged us to deny these allegations and questioned any of these incidents occurred during business hours or on company property. With no response from us, just stunned silence, he expressed his frustration and sharply criticized our actions. He informed us, his voice dripping with annoyance, that a court order prevented him from firing us until the case was settled. He simply instructed us to leave his office until he figured out how to handle the situation. With our heads hanging low, we left his office and made our way back to our desks, feeling utterly defeated and humiliated. Following that incident, my job became significantly challenging. Every step felt like walking on eggshells, but honestly, I was just grateful to still have employment, even for a little while. Deciding I needed to understand the full extent of the damage, I sat down and assessed the divorce packet. It was severe, containing not just papers, but images, videos, audio recordings, and even notarized letters detailing everything. Someone had been very, very thorough. An hour later, a company-wide email arrived from the boss. It addressed all employees, stating that management had become aware that employees had repeatedly planned and executed actions contrary to the moral code of conduct detailed in the employee handbook, and critically, this happened during work hours and on company property. Considering the likelihood of the problem being more widespread than documented, drastic action was announced. Due to uncertainty about which employees were involved, all employees were required to immediately familiarize themselves with the code of morals in the employee handbook. An online class would be developed over the weekend, and every single employee had to successfully complete it by the following Friday. Security would conduct spot checks of all secluded areas throughout the day, a measure to be repeated until permanent security cameras were installed for monitoring. Subsequently, the storage room would be locked and the key held by the security supervisor. Any necessary supplies must be brought in with a security escort. The security supervisor would closely monitor computer use to prevent personal use of company assets. Prohibited activities now explicitly included scheduling non-work-related meetings with coworkers or others, browse non-work-related websites, and non-work-related text messaging on company computers. Socializing with coworkers should be strictly confined to the break room during scheduled breaks and lunch periods. Security personnel would roam the building constantly to monitor compliance, and the names of those responsible for the actions would not be disclosed, at least not yet. About 2 minutes later, my email exploded. Not with work messages, but with hate mail from coworkers. It was brutal. After work, the other three and I met at a bar across the street. We huddled at a small table in the corner, facing disapproving looks from other coworkers who were also there for Friday happy hour. "At least we still have work," Tom muttered glumly. "At least for a while." That was very nice of him, wasn't it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Why do you think why do you think he included that in the court order? About us keeping our jobs for now? Mark scoffed, dismissing the idea that it was kindness. Nice, please. David wasn't trying to cause minimal damage, Christine. He absolutely intended to inflict more pain. Think about it. What do you mean? I asked, confused. Alimony, Josh stated flatly. Think about alimony. He explained that while infidelity was the current reason for the divorce, having a stable job and income could actually prevent a judge from awarding significant alimony, especially if you're seen as capable of supporting yourself. But he cautioned, there was a serious risk if we were laid off after the divorce was finalized. There was still a chance a sympathetic judge might award financial assistance based on the inability to find another job. The safest bet, he concluded, was to stay at the job, horrible as it was, until the divorce was final and try to save every penny. Tom then raised a scenario. What if, after the divorce, all four of us were suddenly laid off? In that case, there could be no alimony and no job. Mark responded that, in such a case, he would simply resign on Monday. Tom made a joking comment about being a natural blonde, implying that resigning voluntarily could have serious legal repercussions. He explained that resigning after filing for divorce might be perceived by a judge as an attempt to make yourself look needy or incapable of working, specifically to receive support from your ex-spouse. It could lead to very negative judgments from a judge. The recommended course of action, however awful, was to hold on to the job with everything we had and save money. Mark expressed deep concern about his and my situation specifically. He emphasized that their wives might receive significant alimony and child support due to them having children. He pondered the immense challenges they would face if laid off, considering that alimony and child support were determined based on income at the time the divorce was finalized. The situation sounded far from promising, a bleak and terrifying prospect. Realizing the potential consequences, the full weight of what I had done crashed down on me. I felt an overwhelming need to talk to David, to attempt to resolve our issues, no matter what it took. Despite wanting to assist my friends, the thought of losing my husband forever made me completely reconsider my priorities. In that moment of self-reflection, sitting in that bar surrounded by the wreckage I'd helped create, I questioned my initial intentions. I concluded that if I needed to prioritize my marriage over my friendships, over my pride, over anything, I would do whatever it took to save it. I swiftly retrieved my cell phone from my purse, my fingers fumbling slightly. I found David's contact and pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, then a message came on. The number you have dialed does not accept calls from your number. Blocked. He had blocked my number. Frustrated and a little panicked, I requested Emily's phone. He's blocked my number, I explained, my voice tight. I need to talk to him about all this. I tried calling him on Emily's phone, but received the exact same message. It became painfully evident that he had also blocked her number. When Tom suggested I try his phone, I hesitated, feeling a fresh wave of embarrassment and concern about the potential consequences of calling my husband from one of my friends' phones, especially this friend right now. Acknowledging the difficulty in reaching him by phone, a deeper sense of panic set in. David had likely blocked my home phone and my work phone as well. Realizing that talking on the phone might not be effective, or even possible, I decided there was only one thing left to do. I had to seek him out in person. The urgency to find him and address the situation face to face took precedence over any concerns about societal expectations for women in marriage, or my own pride. Reflecting on the sudden, drastic changes in my perspective, I recognized the stark contrast. Just that morning, fueled by Emily's confidence, I had entertained thoughts of making David beg and grovel to come home. Now, the tables had turned completely, and I found myself utterly uncertain of the roles we would play, or if there would even be a resolution to our situation. I picked up my phone again and started going through my contacts. Surely at least one of his friends knew where I could find him. Spoiler alert, none of our mutual friends knew anything. Well, that wasn't exactly true. None of the previous mutual friends who had remained friends with me knew anything. The numerous mutual friends who now seemed to completely hate me knew enough. Unfortunately, while they had absolutely no reservations about letting me know they knew where I could find him, they defiantly refused to reveal that information to me. I was met with cruel laughter when I even asked if they'd just give him a simple message from me. I had just dejectedly finished my last call and was halfway through my fourth drink when Mark, bless his heart, said with heavy sarcasm, showed off his intelligence. Maybe it was just my mood, or maybe it was the result of the fundamental differences between how a woman thinks and how a man thinks. Perhaps some of you reading this will think that what Mark suggested was really brilliant. Me, in that moment, sitting there with my life crumbling, I definitely did not think so. Well, Mark began, leaning forward, looking entirely too pleased with himself. Since our lives are already completely messed up, why don't we just go back to Christine's place and spend the whole night as a foursome? We've already been carnal, so we can just take advantage of that and have a night of passion. He actually thought that was sound logic. Maybe to him and his messed up state, but in that moment, I just received a big cold dose of common sense. Of course, if there was absolutely nothing left to lose, then maybe there'd be something to think about in that suggestion. But personally, I still felt deep down that David and I had a tiny, fragile chance. And that tiny chance would evaporate faster than a drop of water on the surface of the sun if I took everyone into the house and had a late night gathering with them. I politely but firmly declined and offered to let Emily take them home. I had a husband, the love of my life, that I was trying desperately to get back. I tried everything I could think of to find David over the weekend. I drove around motel parking lots for hours looking for his truck. I drove past all his friends' houses at different times, day and night, hoping to see his truck there. I even tried to follow his best friend when I saw him leaving his house. One morning, hoping he would lead me to where David was staying. It was all completely in vain. Monday morning, I was desperate. I camped out in my car across the street from his work, arriving before anyone else. Everyone came in one by one, but David never showed up. I waited another hour, my anxiety mounting, still nothing. Even though I was already 2 hours late for my own job, I didn't care anymore. Screw it, they weren't going to fire me, right? No, anyway, and I'd probably still get fired after the lawsuit settlement regardless, but that didn't matter. What mattered was David thought. I finally got out of the car and headed into my own office building. I saw that the door to David's office was closed, which was unusual. I rushed over to the receptionist and asked if David was in today. She told me he was gone for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Crap. My boss threw me an angry look as I walked in. 2 hours. Late and clearly a mess, but honestly, I barely noticed. All the phones I could have possibly used were blocked. His friends refused to help. I couldn't even get a message to him at work. I had absolutely no idea where he was, so I couldn't just show up on his doorstep. Mail wasn't an option because I had no idea where to send it. What were my options? Email. He always checks email. I just had to hope with every fiber of my being that he hadn't blocked my emails too. No problem with attempting. David, no excuses. I won't waste your time trying to provide one. I've contracted the fool's disease, my decision. I'm not blaming Emily. It was wonderful hearing her talk about women's marriage. No idea why I thought there was a chance you'd accept. Should have known better. Sorry for needing a wake-up call, but now I'm awake. I want you to know I'm deeply embarrassed and regret my actions. I understand you may not accept it, David. Despite my recent actions, I truly love you completely. You did nothing wrong. It was me being an incredible idiot and selfish. David, my love, even though I don't deserve it, I beg you to forgive me. I need to come back, and I'm willing to give you anything. I realize the foolishness of trying to create that situation, but I'd be thrilled to be part of MLF. Now, assuming this is a term for male-led family or similar in the context of the story. Yes, David, I'm giving you my soul, and you're just giving me orders. I'll literally do anything to get back to where I belong with you. I know the definition of anything. Please, David, I'm offering you anything. Despite no interest in women, I do things for you. Serve you and your friends at a Super Bowl party in only a garter belt, stockings, and high heels if it brings me back to you. If you want me in a certain way, tell me to bend over the nearest chair, regardless of who's watching. Spank my cheeks with a leather belt. Tell me when and where. I'll bring the belt. There's no reason for you to trust me. I know that, but I'll put on a chastity belt and give you the keys as a condition for my return. I had blood drawn for an STD test today. Results in a couple of days. Tell me where to send them, and I'll get them to you. David, no matter what happens, you're the best person I've ever known. I know you'd never intentionally hurt me, even though I probably deserve it. I accept it all. I'm not asking you to forget or trust me again. I'm asking for the opportunity to be yours in any capacity you desire. I ask for nothing more than to come back to you forever, even if I have to agree to a divorce or watch you with other women. I pray it doesn't happen, but I realize it's not my decision anymore. I'm at fault, and I recognize you might want to. Even to even things out, what about Emily, Mark, Tom, and the lawsuit against my company? Emily manipulated me into agreeing to this plan. Mark and Tom took advantage of that. As you know, I'll be fired once the lawsuit is settled. It's all our fault. Do what you want with them. I'll help if you want. After all, I'm your willing slave from now on. Your loving slave, Christine. Fortunately, David hadn't blocked my email yet. Even more surprising was that he actually read it. No, of course, he didn't just take my word for it right away. After all, I'd already broken the biggest vow I'd ever made, the one about leaving everyone else behind. Since I'd broken that promise, what could possibly make him think I wouldn't break any other promises? All I could do was prove it to him, one action at a time. 2 years have passed since I sent that letter. Mark and Tom faced incredible challenges in their divorces, nasty and drawn out. And all 4 of us, me, Emily, Mark, and Tom, were terminated the day after the lawsuit against the company was finally settled. It was brutal. Eventually, Mark and Tom found lower-paying jobs and had to move into a small, cramped apartment together in a rough neighborhood. Their social lives completely disappeared, and their ex-wives managed to turn their kids against them. I heard both women are now in much better relationships, and now it's my turn in the story. Currently, I'm kneeling here, completely, undressed beside the bed, wearing a chastity belt, while David finishes up. This is my penance, I guess you could say. I detailed all of this, everything I was willing to do, in that letter. Yes, David wanted to test me to see if I would actually honor those words. If I wanted him back, truly back. I didn't have much choice but to prove it. It was a tough first 6 months, really tough, but eventually he eased up a bit. He still makes me do this sometimes, like now, but it has improved. Now he only brings other women home once every couple of months. After getting fired, I stopped working. David actually got a promotion shortly after, and we managed just fine without my income. I stay home now, taking care of our 2-year-old twins. Yes, twins. A boy and a girl. I'm undressed most of the time at home, though David recently said I need to start wearing clothes soon. The kids are getting old enough now that it feels weird otherwise. Right now, I only really wear clothes when we're leaving the house or when we have guests over. I still answer the door undressed for deliveries, though. It's just part of the routine now. I even underwent laser hair removal, so I have a permanent landing strip over my genitals. This makes it impossible to hide the David tattoo on the right side and the David tattoo on the left side of my well. You know, every week, David updates the 5 red stripes on my buttocks with a leather strap. Right after the 5th stroke, he removes my plug and engages me well. You get the idea. As I lean over the couch. I'm not perfect, not by a long shot. Sometimes there are more stripes on my buttocks or even on my chest when I mess up or disappoint him. But honestly, I genuinely enjoy it now. Who knew the sting of a strap could create such a strange, powerful bond? And Emily, well, she's still married. True, she got fired as well. But at first, no one, least of all her, anticipated her facing any significant consequences. Her husband, Harold, seemed entirely submissive to her every whim. She figured she'd easily find another job and life would just continue for her, but life isn't always fair, is it? Actually, in her case, it turns out it was. Harold wasn't the submissive loser everyone believed. Once he quietly gathered all the evidence he needed, he got furious. I thought I had a tough 6 months, but compared to what she went through, mine was a walk in the park. Deciding he had punished her adequately, he served her with divorce papers. While he was putting Emily through hell emotionally, he quietly liquidated all their assets, every single penny, and safeguarded them completely out of her reach. He gave her the house after refinancing it and taking all the equity out first. Then he simply vanished. She lost the house to foreclosure and all the money just disappeared. She did eventually find another job, but for half the salary she used to earn. She also has a completely tarnished reputation, both personally and professionally. She's not dating anyone presently, me. With another month of antibiotics ahead of me. Yeah, turns out you don't always dodge bullets. You might be wondering why I endure all this. Or maybe you're just laughing at my deserved fate. If you're upset because David didn't leave me stranded, homeless, and broke, believe me, I thank God every single day that he didn't, even though, objectively, I probably deserved it. I endure it because I can't fathom being without the love of my life. Yes, David whips and humbles and sometimes humiliates me, but he still loves me. I feel it. He has other women, yes, but never without me present. And I know, deep down, that I could leave any time. David actually showed me the original divorce papers he had drawn up, the ones he could have served me with, and they were completely fair. He would have made sure I was taken care of, but I declined the offer. I don't want that. He's an excellent father, a loving partner in his own way. And well, he's my husband. I don't need anything else. I got so caught up in that ridiculous idea of a women's marriage, of control and exploration, that I completely lost sight of what truly matters. Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more deep and meaningful stories.